I heard them before I saw them. The click of expensive heels on my hardwood floor, the rustling of shopping bags, the entitled laughter that made my stomach clench with old, familiar dread. I stood in the doorway of my own apartment, keys still in hand, and watched my stepmother and stepsister make themselves comfortable on my couch. Designer purses on my coffee table, their shoes kicked off onto my rug. My stepmother looked up, and her smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Oh, you're home early. We were just getting settled." I set my keys down carefully on the entry table. My hands wanted to shake, but I wouldn't let them. Not anymore. Not after everything I'd survived, everything I'd built. "Settled," I repeated, my voice flat. My stepsister, sprawled across my armchair like she owned it, examined her manicured nails. "Well, you bought this place and just leave it empty most of the time. Such a waste. We figured you wouldn't mind sharing with family." Family. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. I walked further into the apartment, past them, toward the kitchen. I needed a moment to breathe, to think, to remember who I was now instead of who I'd been when my father died 6 years ago. "We're not asking permission," my stepmother called after me. "We already moved some of our things into the spare bedroom. You have 2 bedrooms after all. It's only fair." Fair. Another word they'd twisted beyond recognition. I filled a glass with water, watching the liquid rise, letting the cold clarity of it center me. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see them both, so confident, so certain they could take whatever they wanted from me, just like they had before. The memories hit hard and fast. Being 17 and newly orphaned, watching them pack up my father's belongings before he was even cold in the ground. The way they'd taken over the house he'd left me, pushing me into the smallest room, making me feel like a guest in my own home. The years of being their personal servant, their punching bag, their scapegoat for everything that went wrong in their shallow, grasping lives. "Are you listening?" My stepsister's voice cut through my thoughts. "Mom's talking to you?" I turned, glass in hand, and looked at them both. Really looked at them. My stepmother was older now, lines around her mouth from years of sneering and complaining, but her eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, always measuring what she could take. My stepsister had grown into a perfect copy of her mother. Same greedy eyes, same self-satisfied smirk, same absolute certainty that the world owed her everything. "I heard her," I said quietly. "Then you understand?" my stepmother said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. "We'll be staying here. The lease on our current place is up and rent has gotten so expensive. This is the perfect solution." I took a slow sip of water. "Perfect for who?" "For family," she said, and her tone suggested I was being deliberately difficult. "You're about to get married anyway. You'll be living with him soon enough. This apartment will just sit empty." "How do you know I'm getting married?" My stepsister laughed. "Please, we've been keeping tabs. We know all about your little relationship, about this nice apartment you bought, about your good job." Of course they had. Parasites always knew where to find fresh blood. "So you just decided to move in," I said, without asking. "We're telling you now, aren't we?" My stepmother's smile hardened. "Be grateful we're not asking you to help with utilities. Though you could certainly contribute to groceries if you're going to be eating here." The sheer audacity of it stole my breath for a moment. Then I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile, but they didn't seem to notice. They were too busy congratulating themselves on their cleverness. "All right," I said softly. "If you want to live here, we'll see how that goes." My stepmother's eyebrows rose. "That's very mature of you. I'm glad you're finally learning to respect your elders and share what you have." I didn't answer. I just walked back to the bedroom, pulled out my phone, and made a call. "Hey," I said when he picked up. "They're here. It's time." My boyfriend's voice was steady, reassuring. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. "All right, I'll make the arrangements. Give it 3 days." I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, listening to my stepmother and stepsister laughing in my living room, already planning how they'd redecorate, how they'd take over every corner of the space I'd worked so hard to afford. Let them laugh. Let them plan. They had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, the first of my roommates arrived. I was at work when it happened, but my boyfriend sent me updates. Photos, videos, each one more satisfying than the last. The man who answered my apartment door when my stepmother came home from shopping was approximately 6'4", covered in tattoos, and smoking a cigarette in the doorway. "Who the hell are you?" she'd shrieked, and I could hear it clearly in the video, that familiar outrage when something didn't go her way. "I live here," he'd said, blowing smoke. "Who the hell are you?" By the time I got home that evening, there were 4 of them. Large men with hard faces sprawled across my furniture, watching action movies at full volume, leaving beer cans on every surface. My stepmother met me at the door, her face red, her voice shrill. "What is the meaning of this? Who are these people? Get them out." I walked past her, set down my bag, and smiled at the nearest roommate. He was actually a theater major my boyfriend knew, an amateur bodybuilder who jumped at the chance to make some money and mess with some entitled rich people. "Hey guys," I called out. "How's it going?" "Pretty good," one of them rumbled. "Your fridge was empty though. We ordered pizza. Hope that's cool." "Perfectly cool," I said. "Mi casa es su casa." My stepmother grabbed my arm. "What are you doing? You can't just let random men move into your apartment." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then slowly raised my eyes to meet hers. "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what I was thinking when you moved in without asking." She dropped my hand like it burned. My stepsister emerged from the spare bedroom, looking terrified. "Mom, there's one in there. He's sleeping in our bed." "Your bed?" I tilted my head. "I don't remember giving you a bed or a room." "You said we could stay." My stepmother's voice climbed higher. "I said we'd see how it goes. Well, this is how it goes. I have roommates now, lots of them. And if you want to stay here, you'll have to learn to share. With all of us." One of the men laughed, a deep sound that seemed to rattle the windows. "Yeah, we're real social. Love getting to know people." My stepsister had gone pale. "This is insane. You can't—" "Can't what?" I interrupted. "Can't let people move into my apartment without asking you first? Can't make unilateral decisions about my own property? Seems to me I'm just following the example you set." My stepmother's eyes narrowed. "You're trying to scare us." "Am I?" I sat down on the couch next to one of my hired actors. He was eating pizza straight from the box, crumbs falling onto the cushions. "Or am I just being family, sharing what I have? Isn't that what you wanted?" That night, I slept at my boyfriend's place while my stepmother and stepsister tried to sleep in an apartment full of large, loud, intimidating men who stayed up until 3 in the morning, who left the bathroom a mess, who walked around in their underwear eating cereal at midnight. The complaints started the next morning, text after text, each more frantic than the last. "These people are animals. They're threatening us. You need to do something. This is your fault." I didn't respond. I just waited. On the 4th day, things escalated beautifully. One of my actors, a guy who'd done some amateur wrestling, got into a staged argument with another one in the living room. Lots of shouting, some furniture pushing, a lamp knocked over. My stepmother called me 17 times in 10 minutes. When I finally answered, she was crying. Actually crying. "They're going to kill each other. They're destroying your apartment. You have to come home." "They're just blowing off steam," I said calmly. "Boys will be boys, right? Just stay in your room. Lock the door if you're scared." "Scared? I'm terrified. These people are criminals." "Criminals? That's a strong accusation. Did they do something illegal?" They're, they're, they're loud, messy, inconsiderate, taking over your space without asking." I let the words hang. "Sounds familiar." She made a choking sound. "Look," I said, "if you don't like living with them, you can always leave. No one's forcing you to stay. This is my apartment." "No," I said, and my voice went cold. "It's mine. It was always mine. You just decided to take it. The same way you took everything else from me when I was too young and too scared to fight back." Silence on the other end. "But I'm not that girl anymore," I continued. "And this time, you're going to learn what it feels like to be powerless in someone else's space. To be afraid, to be disrespected. Enjoy the lesson." I hung up. By day 7, my stepmother was desperate enough to show up at my office. I was in a meeting when my assistant knocked, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a woman here who says she's your mother. She's causing a scene in the lobby." I excused myself and walked down to find my stepmother and stepsister standing in the middle of the reception area, both of them looking haggard and wild-eyed. "There she is!" my stepmother shouted, pointing at me like I was a criminal. "That's her! She's holding us hostage. She's torturing us." Everyone in the lobby turned to stare. I walked calmly toward them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. "Mom," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "what are you doing here?" "Don't you mom me," she was practically spitting. "You know exactly what you're doing. Those men you brought in, they're threatening us. They're—" "Men I brought in?" I frowned, looking confused. "What men?" "The criminals living in your apartment." "Oh, you mean my roommates?" I tilted my head. "I thought you wanted to live with me. I'm just sharing my space, like you suggested." Sharing with family, my stepsister grabbed my arm. "Please, we'll leave. Just call them off. We'll go today." I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. She looked genuinely frightened, and some small, bitter part of me felt satisfied. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said clearly. "Those men are my roommates. I invited them to stay. If you have a problem with them, that's between you and them. But if you're not comfortable in my apartment, you're welcome to leave any time." "You're doing this on purpose," my stepmother shrieked. "Doing what? Letting people live in my apartment? Isn't that what you're doing too?" I stepped back, out of reach. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. And if you keep disrupting my workplace, I'll have to call security." I turned and walked away, leaving them standing there, stunned and helpless. Behind me, I heard my stepsister start to cry. I didn't look back. On that evening, my boyfriend met me at a restaurant across town. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a tablet in front of him. "How are you holding up?" he asked, pulling me into a hug before I sat down. "Better than them," I said, and meant it. He turned the tablet to show me. "Your stepmother filed a police report this afternoon, claimed she was being harassed and threatened in her home." "Her home?" "That's what she told them. The police went to your apartment to investigate." My heart skipped. And your roommates were perfect gentlemen. Showed the officers their rental agreement, the one I drew up that shows they're legally allowed to be there. Explained that your stepmother and stepsister moved in without permission and have been harassing them. Even showed them some video footage." "Video footage?" He grinned. "Of your stepmother screaming at them, throwing things, threatening to have them arrested for being in their own home. The police suggested she might want to leave if she's uncomfortable with the living situation." I laughed. Actually laughed, deep and genuine. "There's more," he said, swiping to another screen. "This afternoon's performance outside your office, someone filmed it. It's already circulating on social media. Local woman makes scene at daughter's workplace, claims she's being held hostage in the daughter's apartment that she moved into without permission." I watched the video, watched my stepmother screaming, wild-eyed and incoherent. Watched the security guard trying to calm her down while she insisted I was torturing her. "The comments are brutal," my boyfriend said. "Everyone's calling her entitled and crazy. A few people even recognized her and are sharing stories about how she treated people when your dad was alive." "Good," I said softly. He reached across the table and took my hand. "Are you sure you want to keep this going? We can end it now. They'll leave. You've made your point." I thought about it. About 17-year-old me, crying myself to sleep in that tiny room. About the years of being told I was worthless, ungrateful, should be thankful they even let me stay in my father's house. About every time they'd taken something that was mine and claimed it was theirs by right. "One more day," I said. "I want them to really understand." He nodded, squeezed my hand. "Then tomorrow we finish it." The next morning I came home. I'd been staying away for a week, letting my roommates run the show. But now it was time for the final act. I walked into my apartment to find it in chaos. Empty takeout containers everywhere, clothing draped over furniture, the TV blaring. And in the middle of it all, my stepmother and stepsister huddled on the couch, looking like refugees in a war zone. They both jumped when they saw me. Oh, thank God, my stepsister said, standing up. Please, you have to help us. These men, they're what? I set down my bag and looked around. Living here, like you wanted to do. My stepmother stood too, and I saw something new in her face. Not just anger or outrage, fear. Real, genuine fear. We'll leave, she said. Today, right now. Just please, call him off. Call who off? My roommates? I walked to the kitchen, poured myself water. They're just people living their lives. If you don't like it, leave. We're trying to, my stepsister's voice cracked. But every time we start packing, one of them shows up and starts talking about how we're family, how we should stay, how we shouldn't run off. I smiled into my water glass. That one guy, my stepmother said, pointing toward the bedrooms, he keeps talking about how much he loves family, how family should stick together no matter what, how we're all in this together now. Sounds nice, I said. Isn't that what you wanted? To be family? Stop it, my stepmother's voice broke. Just stop. We get it. We understand. You win, we'll leave and never bother you again. I turned to face them fully. Will you? Yes, I swear. Because I remember the last time you promised to leave me alone. After Dad died, after you took everything, you said you'd handle the estate, that I'd get my share, that we'd all be fair to each other. I set down my glass. How did that work out? My stepmother's face crumpled. You took everything, I continued, my voice steady and cold. His house, his savings, his belongings. You kept it all and gave me nothing. Not even my own father's photographs. And when I complained, you told me to be grateful you didn't throw me out on the street. We raised you, she whispered. You tormented me, you used me, you made me feel like I was nothing, like I deserved nothing, like I should be thankful for scraps from your table. I stepped closer. And now you show up here in the home I bought with my own money and try to take it too. Just like before, just like always. My stepsister was crying now, ugly heaving sobs. But here's the thing, I said. I'm not that scared girl anymore. I'm not powerless. And this time, you're going to learn what it feels like to be at someone else's mercy. The door to the spare bedroom opened, and one of my actors emerged, stretching and yawning. Morning, he rumbled. We got any coffee? My stepmother and stepsister pressed back against the couch, trying to make themselves smaller. I looked at them, really looked at them, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a cold, clear certainty. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to pack your things and leave, today, and you're never going to contact me again. Not for money, not for help, not for anything. Yes, my stepmother said quickly. Yes, we will, we promise. I'm not finished. I held up a hand. If I ever hear from you again, if you ever show up at my home, my workplace, my wedding, I will make sure everyone you know sees the videos from this week, your friends, your colleagues, everyone. I will show them exactly what kind of people you are. My stepsister gasped. You're recording us? Every moment, my boyfriend said, stepping out from the bedroom behind me. Every entitled demand, every threat, every moment of you trying to take what isn't yours. My stepmother's face went white. So here's your choice, I said. Leave now, leave forever, and I delete everything. Or refuse, and I make sure the whole world knows exactly who you are. There was a long silence. Then my stepmother nodded. Once, sharp and bitter. We'll go. Good. I stepped aside, gesturing to the door. You have 2 hours. Pack what you brought and get out. They scrambled to the bedroom, and I heard them frantically throwing things into bags, whispering frantically to each other. My boyfriend put his arm around me. You okay? He asked softly. I'm perfect, I said, and meant it. 90 minutes later, they were gone. I stood in the doorway and watched them drag their suitcases to the elevator, both of them keeping their eyes down, their shoulders hunched. At the last moment, my stepmother turned back. I hope you're happy, she said, and it was meant to be vicious, cutting. I smiled. I will be, I said. Once you're gone. The elevator doors closed and they disappeared. I walked back into my apartment to find my roommates high-fiving each other, already starting to clean up the mess they deliberately made. That was fun, one of them said, grinning. Your boyfriend said there's a bonus if we get this place spotless by tonight? There is, I confirmed. And dinner, on me. They cheered and got to work. By midnight, my apartment was clean. Better than clean, it was mine again. Completely, totally mine. My boyfriend and I stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights, his arm around my waist. No regrets? He asked. I thought about it. About the fear in my stepmother's eyes. About the tears on my stepsister's face. About the week of psychological warfare I'd waged against two people who'd once made me feel so small. None, I said. They taught me that sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. To yourself. He kissed the top of my head. So what now? Now? I smiled. Now we plan a wedding, in our apartment, our home, where no one gets to stay unless we invite them. Sounds perfect. And it was. 2 months later, we got married in that apartment. Small ceremony, close friends, people who'd supported us both through everything. My stepmother and stepsister weren't invited, obviously. I didn't even think about them until one of my friends mentioned seeing my stepmother at the grocery store, looking tired and bitter, complaining to anyone who'd listen about her ungrateful stepdaughter. I just smiled and poured more champagne. Because here's what I learned. You can't fight manipulation with kindness. You can't defeat cruelty with patience. Sometimes the only way to win is to show people exactly what they've been doing to you. Give them a taste of their own medicine and watch them choke on it. My apartment is peaceful now. Quiet. Mine. And every time I walk through that door, I remember that I'm not the scared girl they tried to break. I'm the woman who broke free, who fought back, who won. I'm the woman who took back everything they tried to steal. Starting with my home.